This is how the Apothecary Diaries snuck up on me, and ever since I did that, I cannot stop thinking about it. Take episode 1 for example, when one day MaoMao was asked by her father to deliver some medicine to these gorgeous ladies. But on her way back, she suddenly gets kidnapped and is sold as a lowly courtmaid to the rear palace, aka the harem palace of the Chinese emperor. Every single woman who lives within the rear palace is there to serve the emperor, if you know what I mean. When you hear this shit, the normal reaction or the reaction of the most female anime characters is... But MaoMao goes like, guess I'm kidnapped. Well, I'll figure something out. And when I saw her react like this, I knew this girl is among the select few female characters, the rare types who are actually fully fleshed out and well written characters. The ones who are actually fucking badass, who kick ass and take names, and not someone like this.
Please bring Sasuke back to me.
The biggest thing going in favor for this anime, aside from MaoMao, is the setting, Imperial China. Not only that, but this specifically takes place in the royal harem. The setting alone had me invested in the series, and no, that is not the reason, but because the royal harem is heavily political. Every single woman in the harem has their own rank and standing, from high concubine to their lady-in-waiting, which is like being second in command, to a lowly handmaiden. And how do these women assume power, you ask? Well, the royal harem exists so the emperor can produce an heir, and most of the time the one concubine who does give birth to an heir is often crowned the empress. So you can use your imagination on how they are not only ranked but some of the concubines who would do things to assume that power, or think about the ones who didn't wanna be there but they... let's just say they caught the emperor's eye. Don't worry, the show does not explicitly show all these things, but they are heavily hinted at. The only reason I have such deep knowledge about the Imperial China is thanks to the goated manga Kingdom and my itch to know about the history. So after getting kidnapped and being sold as a lowly handmaiden, MaoMao finds herself into this political struggle when one day she tries to save concubines and their babies because of the knowledge she has about poisons. After that, one thing leads to another and she gets promoted to be the lady-in-waiting as well as the sole poison tester for the one and only concubine who has managed to give birth to a girl heir. But for MaoMao, being a poison tester is frankly nothing. Hell, she actually loves being the tester, but the real trouble in her mind is this guy who knows she is smart as fuck, and we will get back to him in a minute. But before that, tell me, did you ever think we would get a plot like this? Moreover, a setting which is in Imperial China. I mean, the last time an anime was based in China had nothing to do with it being in China. The only ones who took advantage of the setting is Riot Games and John Cena. Yes, this anime does not do a deep dive on how Imperial China worked like Kingdom, but it manages to dip its toes enough to the point that every single little thing shown in the anime leaves a lasting impression on you. I mean, it does perfectly capture the vibe of Imperial China, but if you came here to get the source of historical accuracy, you might wanna go somewhere else. I mean, even the anime goes out of their way during the episode to clarify that the characters here are fictional, so the author of the story does not get any hate from some toxic people. Yet at the same time, there is some truth to the setting. For example, this period was famous for being ignorant, spreading misinformation and confusion. Boys getting Theon Greyjoy just so they could make them work at the harem palace, and treating women horribly. I mean, they were not even allowed to learn, much less read. So when you take all this into consideration and see MaoMao learn about poisons and medicines by experiencing things around her, you really cannot help but feel and root for her. I mean, the reason she is quote-unquote smart is not because she has read about it, but she has experienced that thing before. She saw people losing their life just because they were using that specific thing, or she ran tests on her own hand just so she could have a diagnosis and find a cure. And fuck, that is some commitment. MaoMao is not one of that character where they go against everything that is standing in between them and somehow they manage to get away scot-free because they have a secret superpower, but rather she lives under this broken system and yet manages to do things she really wants to do. She does not run out screaming and somehow she gets what she wants. Do you know what would happen if she tries to do that? She would be executed in 10 seconds and everyone would just forget about her, but rather she uses her wits and brains to get away from the situations and gets leeways to do what she really wants. MaoMao really reminds me of mine from Ascendance of a Bookworm, which you probably haven't seen it. I guess the closest one to that in the mainstream anime is probably Senku. On the topic of Ascendance of a Bookworm, go watch it. If you want someone to convince you, watch my video. I will link it. And yes, just like mine and Senku, when it is about learning things, it is portrayed in a funny way. But when shit gets serious, well, see it for yourself.
そうか。なんでこれが禁止されたか分かってんのか
And when you combine all of these things and pair her up with this guy, it is really fun to watch. Jinshi is a laid-back guy who fucks around and loves messing with people, especially with girls who don't fall for his charms. So pairing him up with MaoMao, who gets kind of creeped out with all his flirting, is just so entertaining to watch. The dude is smart. I mean, he's kind of the head manager of the royal harem and is in charge of diffusing the situations between concubines, or in general protecting everyone from outside threat as well as the inside threat. So his scheming brain and Mao's analytical brain solve the mysteries which happen in the royal harem. And even though I know as of right now he's supposed to be Theon Greyjoy, but I'm not buying it, and it is not because he's clearly the future main love interest of MaoMao, but they always focus or mention that specific thing every time he looks hot, and the one who does that is always MaoMao. So I can already imagine where he goes like, "Oh, you thought I was Theon? But in reality, I mean, that would be hilarious. I really like that the anime does not immediately ship these two together, where it is the usual jam that this girl sees no appeal in this wrestler hunk of a man, and that immediately is the sign for him that this girl is his true love, or vice versa. I think Jinshi and MaoMao being their own person and exploring their individual past and forming this eventual connection with each other is infinitely better than just jumping on the love train where the destination is the confession, and every single thing that comes in between is just a pit stop to get that eventual destination. Making this anime a mystery solver first and adding the sprinkle of romance as the icing is just the right combination. The animation is fantastic, especially from episode 3. We begin to see a lot more expressive character movement when they are talking, doing something, or even when they're in the background. And doing all of that while still maintaining this art style is just wow. I mean, the amount of detail they put in some of the most random shit is just mind-boggling. Like, look at this fucking flower. There is no business it having so much detail. In conclusion, wake up and watch this, or it will remain a sleeper forever. That's about it from me. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.